What's up, guys? My name's TJ. I got some stuff I'm throwing together real quick. Wanted to share with you guys. There's been a lot happening in the last few weeks that I feel like the average person doesn't know, and I want to share it with you guys and make sure everybody's in the scoop. That way we can all do our part and prepare for what's going on. Let's dive into it. So it really started in 2013. It really started that thirst for knowledge. And in 2013, from Robert Kiyosaki, I got introduced to Mike Maloney and his amazing series called The Hidden Secrets of Money. And man, if you guys have not seen those, there's 10 episodes. They're all on YouTube. They're all free. Really highly recommend you guys going and watching those. I'll put a link to those in the bottom just so you guys can get to them quick. But I really just started with that, and really there's a whole lot that you learn from that, and really just the importance of gold and silver and how families have maintained their wealth over hundreds and thousands of years, utilizing things like that. And but one of the things that he really laid out was over the last 100 years or a little more, all of the times that there was a currency change, right? And you can see here, the last 4 times that it changed, and we were on the gold standard. And then in 1971, Bretton Woods Act, we got taken off the gold standard. Now we're on the global dollar standard. And if you see here, it says 46 plus years. Of course, this video is a little old. It's 3 years old. So really, we're over 50 years now since we've had a currency change. And if you look back through history, the average currency change is every 30 to 40 years. So we're long overdue for a currency change. 50 plus. So that was a big red flag for me, right? Over the past probably 3 or 4 years, I really started getting serious about, looking at this stuff and keeping an eye on it. So let's look at a few more things. One of them is the GDP, right? If you look at our GDP, looking at this chart, so this is the Federal Reserve economic data, right? So this year, I guess within the last year, we passed the longest time ever of longest economic growth. So if you look at this chart, all of the gray bars are recessions or greater, right? So from 2009 all the way until 2020, so you got 11 years. That is the longest economic growth in history, as far back as this is recorded, right? This goes all the way back to the 1940s. So we just ended this year the longest economic growth in history, right? And if I break this graph down here, and I pulled this all the way into just this year, you can see this gray bar, right? So this year we're already in a recession, right? Now you don't hear that on the news. If you look at this right here, shading indicates U.S. recessions. The most recent one is ongoing, right? This is just the beginning, in my opinion. So there's that, right? We also have, go back here. We also have the fact that in the last 10 years, the Federal Reserve has printed more money than they have in the last 100 years. So, this chart here really just shows, the monetary base, right? You can see all the way, in the 1970s to 2010, even if you look, probably 2009, there was less than $1 trillion in circulation, right? And now we're over 5 trillion. So just in the last 10 or so years, we've printed, really 4 or 5 times the amount of money than we have in the previous 100, which is insane. All right, let's dive into some of these changes that I've seen this year. So I'm going to show you guys a quick snapshot from one of the companies I love called Celsius. This is their CEO. on a live stream answering some questions. And really what he's about to talk about is one of the big things that have happened this year is there was a change in the OCC. And the OCC is really the governing body for most of the U.S. banks, all the big names. And here, I'll go ahead and play the clip.
That's what happened, but Steve Mnuchin, our Secretary of the Treasury, pulled out one of the top people in Coinbase and made that person supervise all the banks.
So if you guys don't know, Coinbase is the largest crypto company in the U.S. So that's where most people are buying their crypto. If they live in the United States, they buy it from Coinbase. So the OCC just took one of the head guys of Coinbase, a crypto company, and put them in charge of monitoring the banks, right? We'll go ahead and play a little bit more here.
So a guy from crypto was taken out and put in a critical position to supervise all the banks. Right? That makes no sense whatsoever unless there's a much bigger agenda here, right?
Boom. Makes no sense unless there's a bigger agenda at play, which is what I want to show you guys because, like I said, I feel like the average person does not know some of these things, and I want to get the word out, make sure that everyone has equal opportunity to set themselves up for what I think is coming. So we'll play a little bit more here of this clip.
And the agenda is that we're moving much quicker towards a digital dollar. We're moving much quicker towards a crypto becoming mainstream. And they needed not just to allow banks to touch crypto, custody crypto, or transacting crypto, but they needed someone who is also thinking in the same line.
Awesome. And I also have a quick, I got a video where they're interviewing the guy from Coinbase that just switched over, which is really good. I'll put that link down in the description as well. It's about 12 minutes long. Really, really good. Recommend you guys watching that. So let's talk about some of the stuff that he just mentioned. Of course, that video was just made about a week ago, but it's just a good segue into some of the stuff I wanted to talk about. So let's talk about the IMF, right? What's the IMF? So IMF was conceived July 1944 at the United Nations Bretton Woods Convention in New Hampshire. 44 countries in attendance sought to build a framework for international economic cooperation, avoid repeating competitive currency devaluations that contributed to the Great Depression in the 1930s. IMF's primary mission is to ensure the stability of the international monetary system. Boom. All right, that's the IMF, right? We're on the IMF's website. If we go to one of the papers they have published called Breaking Through the Zero Lower Bound, right? Let's dive into this. Now, this was made and published, in 2015, right? So this agenda has been in the works for a minute. Let's read just a piece of this little quick summary right here. All right, let's see. All right. All that is needed to empower monetary policy to cut interest rates as much as needed for economic stimulus now is to change from a paper standard to an electronic money standard, and to be willing to have paper currency go away from par. This is interesting, right? This allows the central bank to create a crawling peg exchange rate between paper currency and electronic money. All right, that's just the summary, right? If we dive into this, and you can go to the IMF, right? Search for breaking through the zero lower bound, and you guys can see this. You'll click free download right here to see the full papers, but it's pretty in depth, super long. They got all kinds of reasons and backings in this thing. But if you go to the very end of it, it will have on here an implementation of the transition from paper standard to electronic money could take the following steps, right? And if you read through these, a lot of these are already happening or have happened, right? You look at number 5, talking about negative interest rates, right? That's already happened in Europe, right? They're already testing some of that stuff. Look at number 8. This 8 and 9, I feel like this is where we are right now. Formally make money in the central bank, certified bank accounts legal tender, right? Number 9 is announce the intent to introduce an electronic money system. So a lot of you guys might be saying, oh, we already have electronic money system, right? Debit cards, yada, yada, yada. This is completely different than that. So we're going to talk about that some more here. So let's dive in. So this is International Monetary Fund. Let's switch over to U.S. Congress website, congress.gov, right? You go to this bill right here, Banking for All Act, right? Interestingly enough, this was introduced March of 2020, right? Same month COVID happened to be wrecking through here. So right now it says just introduced, but this part hadn't updated yet. As you can see here, they had a meeting 6:30 of this year. So let's dive into this a little bit. So if you'll scroll through here, you guys can see the whole plan behind the digital dollar, right? And they are very smart about this stuff, right? So they're calling it the digital dollar. They're using the word dollar because they don't want you to know that it's a whole different currency, right? If they called it some different name altogether, then it would draw a lot more red flags and probably get a lot more pushback. So they're calling it the digital dollar. And if you look right here, all Federal Reserve banks shall no later than January 1st of 2021, that's in a few months, make digital wallets available to all residents and citizens of the United States and to businesses domiciled in the United States. There it is. So, no later than January 1st. Digital wallets. So, this is interesting, right? Especially with them just bringing the head of not the head, but one of the top guys of Coinbase over to monitor the banking system. Now they're talking about, implementing all of these digital wallets, digital currency, and they're not gonna stop using cash altogether instantly, right? What they're gonna do is they're gonna incentivize you to want to switch over to the digital dollar wallets. That's going to be them enticing you to switch over. All right, let's see. So we walked through IMF, we walked through Congress. If you look back 2 weeks ago, Jerome Powell, head of the Federal Reserve, just basically changed the rules on how they're calculating interest rates now. And they're not going to hold back anymore. They're not going to try to keep them below 2%. He basically came out and said, we can't control it anymore. We're going to let interest rates run as high as they need to average a certain number, right? And we know, especially if you watch The Hidden Secrets of Money, like I was talking about earlier, that anytime you're going into a hyperinflation, it starts with a deflation, right? It starts with deflation, then the central banks, they start printing money like crazy to stop the deflation, and they think that they can control it and just turn it off at the right time. And what happens is, it swings back the other direction, right? You can either have deflation or inflation, one or the other. One of those two things are always in play. And it's deflation first, followed by hyperinflation. And in my opinion, that's what's coming. And in the middle of switching also to this new currency. So It's going to be pretty interesting, which leads to, let's talk about Warren Buffett. That's someone that's, very well known. And let's look at some of these headlines. Warren Buffett dumps U.S. bank stocks and buys gold mining stock. Biggest move was to sell off 84% of his stake in Goldman Sachs, longtime holding, where he famously invested $5 billion during the 2008 financial crisis. Decreased Goldman. Also cut JP Morgan, Wells Fargo. There was a few of them. But the fact that Warren Buffett, so if you think back, this is someone that's always talking about don't bet against America, right? In 2008, he came out and said, don't bet against America. Now's the time to buy stocks. And what is he doing right now with all of this stuff going on? He is selling his banking stocks and he moved them to gold, right? Which is really, really interesting. Not only that, but look, Berkshire Hathaway buys, so that's his company, buys stakes valued at $6 billion in 5 Japanese companies. So these Japanese companies all pay their employees in the yuan. So he's basically come out of the U.S. dollar, and now he has bought 5. So it's not a one-off, right? He's bought 5 different companies, valued at $6 billion. Some of the biggest trading companies in Japan. So he's moving his stuff away from the U.S. dollar, right? This is Warren Buffett saying he is not confident in the U.S. dollar right now, right? Now he's a patriot, right? He's not going to come out and just say that on the news, right? But don't listen to what people say. You look at what they do, and look at what he's doing. He's moving his money out of the U.S. He's moving it out of the U.S. dollar into gold. Not to mention that gold is at an all-time high, right? Just a few weeks ago, hit its all-time high ever in history, over $2,000 an ounce. People run to gold in a time of crisis. So, all right, cool. Well, so that's some of the stuff I wanted to walk you guys through. Yeah, that's really the reason. I've been looking for these little dominoes, right? That have been building over the last 5-6 years, and really COVID has been, this whole pandemic has really launched their platform forward, right? For a digital currency to launch, and just the whole 9 yards. So, why did I sell my rental properties? Real estate is amazing, right? But in times of crisis, in times like a Great Depression, rental properties are no good if you cannot hold on to them long term, right? And that is not a risk that I wanted to take. Having to afford 3 different mortgages plus my own personal residence, 4 mortgages, that's over $500,000 that I would have to be paying for. There's no telling what that's going to look like, especially when we go into a depression scenario, or hyperinflation scenario. So just sold 2 of those. I still got a tenant under lease in one of them. So we'll see what happens there. But at this point, I'm moving money out of U.S. valued assets into things like cryptocurrency. Got a lot of cool things. I've been teaching a lot of people about crypto, helping them transition some of their stuff into that. So I'd love to make some videos for you guys about that. How to use Coinbase, how to buy Bitcoin. If you guys want to see stuff like that, leave a comment down below, and I would love to make some tutorials for you guys. Not to mention a company like Alex, the guy that in the first video that I showed you guys, he founded a company called Celsius, right? Which is changing the banking industry. Alex Majinsky, I don't know if you guys have ever been to the New York subway, right? There's cell phone signal in the New York subway. There is, if you guys have probably heard of voice over IP, right? If you own a business, you're in the business world, you've probably heard of voice over IP. He has the patents to voice over IP. This man is just a trendsetter, changing the game in all kinds of areas. And now he has taken on, he's looking at different sectors, right? And what hasn't been transformed in the last 100 years? It was the banking industry, right? So now he has coined something called money over IP, right? And that is his company, Celsius, and it is phenomenal. I mean, if you think of your savings account, right? Say you had $10,000 in there, you might earn a few cents in interest, right, for that sitting in there for a whole year. Well, his company, instead of taking the interest and keeping it as profits for the company, he shares that with the people, right? His business model is insane. Let's see if I got it pulled up here. Yeah, here we go. So this is Celsius Network. And so in this example, right, if you took that money out of the banking system, right, you unbank yourself and you put it in the Celsius app. So it's an app on your phone that you can store your crypto in and different assets, and you can earn interest weekly on. That same $10,000 that you would have gotten change on in a regular banking account, right now paying 11.5% interest. So that'd be $1,155 a year that you would get just from that money sitting in there. So moving your savings accounts over to things out of the US dollar into stuff like Celsius Network, definitely a good way to go right now for sure. Not to mention you're compounding your money, right? So if you haven't heard of Bitcoin already, do some research on it. It's definitely a game changer. The technology itself is like the blockchain is like the internet on steroids. It will change the way we do business. It will change the way that the monetary system works. So if you guys haven't already, I would love to make some videos for you guys on Coinbase, about Coinbase, how to buy crypto, how to get involved in Bitcoin. Celsius, big game changer, right? Take your money out of the banks. I don't know if you guys know, but once you deposit money into a bank, legally it is no longer yours, right? It is in their system as, they give it back to you if they give it back to you at their leisure, I guess you would say, right? If you talk about bank holidays, you talk about bank freezes, you talk about Brexit a few years back, right, where you couldn't go to the bank and get your money out. It was $50 a day, I believe, that you could get out of an ATM max, right? At the end of the day, it's theirs, and if they want to lock it down, they can. And that's why I'm a big promoter for getting out of the current banking system. Unbank yourself. That's one of the hashtags that Celsius has. If you guys are interested in that, I'll drop an affiliate link down in the description. You get $20 when you use that link. So when your first time, once you deposit $200 in that app, you'll get $20 for free, which is cool. And then you'll start earning, of course, interest as well on your money, which is really nice. So if you don't use the link, don't use the link, right? At the end of the day, I would rather you guys just, do your research and really start looking at these things. These are things that the average person is not talking about, right? There's going to be a currency change. Now it's going to be slow, and things that have already happened that are changing the way, right? Jerome Powell coming out and changing the way the Federal Reserve calculates interest rates, saying that they're not going to be able to control it. They know prices are going to go higher on gas, food, housing, and that low-income individuals are going to be severely impacted. They are coming out saying these things. This is an interesting time that we live in, for sure. So y'all check those out. Drop some comments down below. Let me know what you guys want to see. If you guys like this kind of information, I'm always looking into this stuff. I'm always diving in, trying to keep me and the family a step ahead. So If y'all want to see stuff like this in the future, let me know. Make sure you guys give this video a like, and yeah, just y'all keep me in the loop. Let me know what you guys want to see, and y'all do some research. There's a lot of information out there that you guys can learn, and there's a lot of history. You know, one of the best quotes is that the further you look back into history, the further you can see into the future. So, all right. Well, thank you guys for tuning in. I know this was getting a little bit long, so thank you guys a whole bunch. Y'all let me know what you guys want to see. See you guys next time.